Millsy. First off, welcome back. Second off, I really, really wish more males had urinal etiquette. Because if there's like 5 urinals on a wall, there's rules. Like, untold rules that everybody kind of just knows.
The rules are, if there's 5 urinals, it should be 2 guys at each end.
Yes.
If needed, that third guy can go directly in the middle.
Right in the middle, yep.
That's it. Mm-hmm. Unless you're at a very crowded sports game and you know guys are going to do it anyway, then 5 will go in. But normally you leave that space in between.
I agree. Now, my only problem with this, though, is I grew up where we would go to like a dirt track, racetrack kind of thing. The urinal, there was one because it was literally like an old feeding trough. And you all just...
Those are the worst.
You just kind of let it hang out and peed. And let me tell you, that was the most awkward thing ever.
She's a brick.
How? Okay. Welcome back to Hometown Commander, where we're going to talk about urinating.
Urinating in urinals.
In urinals. Specifically, maybe just one. No, welcome back to Hometown Commander, the podcast that talks about the format of Magic the Gathering that everybody knows and loves.
And hates.
We are back. Sorry that we took a time off. You can definitely blame Mills. No, you can blame me for it.
Remember, life happens.
Life happens. That's a perfect wrap-up.
Life happens for you as the listener. Life happens for us as the recorders. And as much as we love our podcast and we want to put our hearts and souls into it, things happen sometimes. And, when things happen, unfortunately, recording a podcast isn't the most important thing,
I feel like at this point in time, our 15 listeners are like, it's okay, guys. We understand.
We have that one listener. But y'all been consistent. I'm done.
I'm done now. I'm going back to... oh, geez, I just lost their name. Like, Command Zone.
Insert random podcast.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to the Command Zone. It's like, well, you left the Command Zone for us? Chill out. No. We are super excited to be back here. We're super excited for this wonderful topic to bring you, boys and girls of all ages. But before we do, of course, we want to plug in our beautiful things that we love to plug in. And I'm not talking about a phone charger.
We're talking about Rogue Energy.
Wow! What a perfect segue. Like, plug equals power equals energy
equals Rogue Energy
equals Rogue Energy.
You can go over to RogueEnergy.com. You can use our code HOMETOWN, all one word. Save 10% off your order of some pretty banging stuff. All the vitamins and minerals you love. Probably not all of them, but at least some of them.
A lot of them.
None of that nasty sugar. All that good caffeine. Get you rocking. Now, Mikey, I haven't mentioned this on the podcast, but
here we go.
I want to mention it here. I have actually been no soda for like 5 or 6 weeks now.
How's it been?
Rogue Energy has saved my butt when I need some caffeine. It's been good, man. It's probably a good change. I'm getting older now, and I have to take care of myself. That crazy thing that we have to do.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been bad. I think I have my one Rogue or my one G Fuel a day, and to be honest, it helps with still getting some caffeine.
Right.
But I think the one thing that's done a lot is made me like drinking water more. I really didn't before. And I bought a bunch of those, Mio or, the flavors you can get at, Walmart or whatever. And I thought I was going to have to rely on them more. But to be honest, as it's gone by, I don't mind. Now, our water here isn't the best in the world, but it's not bad.
Speaking of water, Liquid Death, if you're listening,
please sponsor us.
Still want you to sponsor us.
Please send me a fridge. I will post it all the time on our social media.
Liquid Death, great water. No, not sponsored, but just go drink it.
We need to get Liquid Death and use it to make Rogue Energy.
Oh yeah, 100%.
100%.
The sparkling, I want to use one of the flavored sparkling.
I wonder how that'll work.
Liquid Death, and then pour in my nice Rogue Energy.
Interesting.
I'd have to figure. I think you could do the blood orange with the mango one.
That might work out.
That'd be good. So, anyways,
but we also
got
the Discord.
We have the Discord, yes.
If you guys weren't in there, you would have seen the other day when they did the first look for Capenna, I absolutely dumped every screenshot into the chat.
Oh, he did. Holy cow.
I just straight dumped it into the chat.
It was beautiful.
And I will always straight dump it into the chat. So if that's something that you're interested in, Come on over to the Discord.
To kind of give somebody like an idea, like I work at a school, so the previews and whatnot, I don't have time to watch. Unfortunately, I wish they would do it at a better time. On like maybe.
Well, this one was at 4:30.
Well,
it's better than like 11 a.m.
I was thinking like a prime time, like maybe like a 5 or 6 kind of thing. Anyways, that's beside the point. But I enjoy when you dump those pictures and whatnot. That's my time to kind of like go through after work. And
I know that like we're now at the point in the Magic community where literally 4 seconds later they're going to be on Reddit. Like I understand that, but my thing is I normally watch when they do the first reveal ones. It's normally at like 11 a.m.
Yeah,
and it's like no one has to. I have a desk job where I can, but like most people don't. So like that was always my way of like sending it to my buddies and being like, "Hey, here's what you missed," and I gave a quick summary of what I thought was cool.
And you get to talk about it in a healthy community, not to nudge anything, just saying.
Wait, are you implying that communities can be unhealthy?
Anyways, we also have a Facebook.
And the YouTube.
And the YouTubes.
We're going to be banging our videos out on YouTube. We got a bunch of cool stuff coming, so go and check that out. I think this is definitely after our small hiatus, this is definitely a reinvigoration into getting things right. And,
a wake-up call, more or less. Yes, for sure. We're going to be banging out some Rogue Energy and maybe, never mind.
Utilizing it as the instructions.
Yes. Please pour it in bottle of water. Now,
Mikey, what topic are we talking about today?
Well, let me tell you. I am a very, I'm an honest person most of the time.
TM.
I'm an honest person most of the time. TM. No. I don't mind being the first one to tell people. Actually, here, let me share a story, if I may. So I'm playing with a friend of ours named Braden. If you're listening, Braden, thank you so much for listening. He's a newer player, like brand new. Don't think he's ever really played Magic up until like these past couple of months. And he's really dove.
Dove, I think.
Dove. Yeah, he really dove. He has really dove. It doesn't matter. He's into this thing now, and it's been interesting to watch him kind of grow over the past couple of months with it. And he's already bought like 2 commander decks. He's got 3 of them now. He didn't have one. He was gifted one, and now he's got 3. It's crazy. Like he's really invested into it, and I'm proud of him. He's liking it a lot. He really wants to play a lot more, which I hope I can be of assistance with that. But we're sitting down and we're playing one night, and his wife sits down next to him and goes, "How's the game?" And I go, "Braden won." And Braden goes, "Yeah, I won." And she goes, "Really?" But he has a podcast, pointing to me, and I was just like, that doesn't make me the expert, I promise. I'm perfectly fine with losing.
I've lost enough Magic games to tell you that just because you have a podcast, just because you own the right cards, doesn't mean that you won't lose.
Yes, exactly. That is exactly where we're going to be going today. We are going to be talking about how to lose.
Not in the sense of like, this is how you lose a game.
Yeah.
Like, because that's not, I think we want to talk about our approaches to losing, what we think is a healthy way to lose, and what your mental approach should be to losing.
Yes.
We play a game that you will not win every time. Whether you think you can or not, you will not win every game. So how do we use our losses to teach us new things? Mm-hmm. How do we use our losses to
better ourselves?
How do we lose respectfully in our play group so that it's not personal? Because we don't want it to be personal, right? I think there's a lot of things we can do here. So I think the first thing we should do is let's talk about losing in the context of in a game.
Yes.
So how do we determine if we're going to lose? Now, I think the obvious way is you keep a 2-land hand, you draw nothing but permanents, and you just teeter your way out. I mean, we've all seen players at the table have those games, or personally have had those games, where you never get the lands you need. Any permanent that you finally can get onto the battlefield that gets you value gets removed, and you just kind of sit there and throw your hands up and go,
GG.
Okay, cool.
Let's shuffle it back up kind of thing.
We want to start by saying that neither of us condone scooping.
No.
In a game of Commander. Standard, please. Those games, you don't waste your time in a game you don't want to be in. And that's a whole other episode. But in a game of Commander,
nobody wants to be in Standard anyway. But anyways.
I think, and I'm probably quicker to scoop than you are in all the reality. I mean, there's been plenty of games where I said, well, the game's over. I'll play it out though, but the game's 100% over. It's just about how long it takes at this point. I think scooping is a little bit disrespectful, especially because most people scoop when it would detriment the active player in their turn.
Yeah.
Like someone goes to combat and swings 4 creatures to you and go, well, I'm just going to scoop. At least let them do the damage. I mean, there are effects that happen, and we want, you would want the same from the other person if you were in the same shoes. But I think what we're trying to get after here is, what are our processes as far as looking at the board and saying, where is the game headed?
Right.
I think it's easy to tell when you're in last place. Sometimes it can be pretty easy to tell when you're in first place, right? But, you mentioned that I'm one of the people that's very quick to look at the board and go, well, he has it in 2 turns. He's just got to get there.
Yes.
And you're always like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, he's got this piece. He's going to be able to make these tokens, or he's going to be able to do this thing. And he probably needs about 2 turns and he'll be there.
Right. My thing with that is, on the flip side of things, and the reason why I ask those questions is, like, I think I've been in just too many, not necessarily Magic games, but just games in general, where it's like I see the plays that the person who has it. I see where they're going, and I want them to get there if they're like a new player, and I want them to see it as well. And if they don't, that's great. That means I have a better chance of winning. My thing is I guess, since I've been in so many comeback situations and I've seen so many comeback situations, I want my Magic play to stay the same with it, and it doesn't always, obviously, because in the essence of Magic, it's a card game. Whatever you draw off the top of your deck is more or less what's going to happen, and that's just how the game's going to go, unfortunately. But it also could be the old Yu-Gi-Oh! The Heart of the Cards kind of thing of like, whatever you pull could change the state of everything.
Yeah, I'm not the kind of guy who always says like, oh, well, he's got it in 2 turns. That means the game over.
Yes.
I'm never going to give up. I think my thing is, if someone's clearly been leading the table for a few turns and you can see the play line and you can see no one has anything, you ask them, hey, do you have anything? And no one has it. That's where I'm at the point where I'm like, I found it funny because a couple of times I've told the players in the lead, I know exactly what you're looking for. You're probably going to do something like this, and then you're going to swing. And they're like, yeah, that's exactly right. And I'm like, okay, well, I saw that coming. Like, I knew it was going to happen. It's just sometimes you got to draw the right thing, or you got to tutor for the right piece, or you got to get yourself in the right position to win. It's like if you put a half of an infinite combo down on the board and no one has any removal, now I'm waiting for you to drop the other piece. Because most of the time, people don't put a piece of a combo out unless they can protect it or they have the other piece. That's just smart, right?
Right.
So I think for me, it's, the thing I like the least about Commander is how long games can take sometimes. Mm-hmm. You have 4 people, especially when you're dealing with newer players. Their turns take a little bit longer. I try my best to be as quick as I can with my turns because I know that if everybody's going quicker, or we can get more games in a 4-hour period than if we're all taking our time, and that's all about what we want. If we want a slow, hung out, fun game, then that's fine, but I always try my best to kind of have my turn planned out and get it done quickly so the game moves on. And Mike, we've had plenty of games in our time where we're an hour and a half in and the board's just as even as it was when we started, and I'm like, do you guys just want to call this and move to a new game?
Yeah.
I was like, because what you need to win and what you need to win and what I need to win, who knows when they're going to show up.
Right. The game has changed so much over the course of however many turns we've been going into that we are, like you said, right at turn 1 more or less again. No one's played an Armageddon, but to destroy the land.
I think people get frustrated sometimes, like when it comes to like board wipes and removal and things like that. They're like, well, why did you use it there? Like, you didn't have anything to do after it. It's like, well, that's not necessarily what angers me. What angers me, and we've talked about this plenty of times, is when people kind of play with their food. Like, they have it, but they don't use it. And then you get into these scenarios where they wait too long and someone removes it, and then they get mad because they won. And it's like, well, you didn't play it.
Yeah.
You can't be mad. You chose not to do it. And we didn't necessarily know that you had it. You can't blame the other player for trying his best to, or her best to, get rid of your thing because that's what's going to win the game. You chose not to play it. You have to accept that.
Because, you think about it like this, like, there are way too many cards in Magic. And we'll never know what card, every single card in the 99 of somebody's deck. Like, it is going to be different every single time. I was thinking about this morning, actually. I don't know why, but I was. And I was thinking like, man, you can build, if you want a certain strategy, you can build any commander any certain way, really, like in the confines of their strategy and colors.
I think as good players, we make inferences about what you might have.
Yes.
But man, I played in plenty of games where I'm like, he's probably looking for this effect, and then you drop something else, and I'm like, what is that?
Yes.
I
love that.
And that's okay. I mean, that's what makes building decks fun. But I think in the context of losing, I've told you on multiple occasions at a table, you've asked, you've kind of seen the look on my face, and you've seen me kind of like doing my math, and you're like, what's wrong? And I'm like, well, he has it in 2 turns if he plays the right cards. And I just don't want to king make the game. Like I don't want to force someone else to win, because to me that doesn't seem right.
Right. No,
I don't want to be the kind of guy who's like, I'm going to go out guns blazing and like take out the person who should win. Now I know that kind of contradicts my last statement, which was like, don't play with your food. But most of the time, this is a new player who doesn't realize that they have it yet, but I realize that they have it. And I'm like, well, I haven't been able to set up. I haven't been drawing well. That's okay. That happens, man. There's plenty of games I've had where you don't draw well, and it is what it is. We play a card game with 99 cards in your main deck. You're gonna have games where you don't see what you need. And so my frustration sometimes is it's like I could king make the game. Mm-hmm. I could force the game to end quicker, but that's not necessarily good either. Because I have had games where I go to king make because I'm like, I'm going to help them out. So I attack the player who I think I can help take out. And then the next turn, the person who should have won got taken out because something changed and they didn't realize it. Or they changed their game plan because they were like, wow, he's getting aggressive. Like, maybe I should back off. And then the game goes 30 more minutes. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So to me, I think it's just hard because there's no way for me to give a guide of if this happens, the game's going to end.
Yeah.
How many cards exist in our format? Thousands and thousands and thousands of cards. So it's hard to like do that. But I think as a player, my approach to losing has always been, do I know why I lost? Like, not because, so-and-so drew the God hand and they had everything. Okay, that happens. I've drawn the God hand too, and I've had great games.
Yeah.
But I find most of the time I lose because I make strategy mistakes.
Yes, that's yeah.
I didn't play the right strategy. Maybe I assumed someone would do something and they didn't. Maybe someone attacked in a way I didn't expect them to and it threw me off. But in all reality, I lose because I make mistakes.
Yeah.
And what I try to do at the end of that game, I even do this when I win, is take a look at the quick snapshot of the game in my head and say, what did I do wrong?
Right.
Where did I make a mistake that maybe helped? Because sometimes you can make a mistake and it helps you, but in all reality, most of the time, right, when we make mistakes, it hurts us, right?
Yep.
And so my thing is like, where did my strategy go wrong? I try my best to not blame it on drawing the right cards because that's just the nature of the game.
Yeah.
I don't want to. If I lost because I didn't draw the right thing, it's probably because I didn't do anything good with what I had. You don't want to spend 4 turns waiting for another land and doing nothing because then, you expect nothing. But I think it's the approach of if at the end of every game, you're looking inward and saying, how did I play? What did I miss? What should I have seen coming? What didn't I do right? And then I think you learn. It's the same way when you win, right? Wow, that card really works. Maybe I should find another one of those effects and put it in the deck.
Right.
Or, man, that creature was really good. Maybe I can put in a few more things like it or similar to it to get a good effect. Or, wow, I didn't even know that combo was in my deck. Maybe I should look into that further and see if I can enable it at all. These are things that you do. But, I mean, I hope that you would agree that I always try my best to act the same when I win than when I lose. It was a good game. I had a good time, and I could still learn something. I think it's easy to be a sore loser and a just obnoxious winner. We all know those people where when they lose, they're all mad because they could have done this and you shouldn't have had that. And then when they win, it's like the world ended. And they're like the best player that's ever existed.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I like to win, but to me, there's always things to be learned. And I've told you before, I will continue to play Commander until there's a point where I feel like I cannot learn anything else, which I think will be never.
Right.
I think there's just so much to learn and to enjoy about the game.
And I mean, there's also in the game of Commander, there's the proper way. I say the proper way because there is technically a rule set of this format, but with Commander, there's always supposed to be 3 other players other than you. It's not just one-on-one. In a one-on-one situation, with any game, not just Magic. I think any board game, or even if you're going to play Call of Duty one-on-one, there's a certain strategy that is even further than what your skill set may be at, and that's okay. And what I'm getting at is like, you aren't just bouncing off of one other person. What kind of, if they make a mistake, then oh boy, you better hurt them, or you make the mistake, oh boy, you better hope they don't hurt you, kind of thing. But in Commander, with 3 other opponents, no teammates, just opponents, you really can make a mistake, or have the kind of hand where you're sitting there going, I really have to sit back for a while, and if I take damage, I'm going to take damage. That's just what's going to happen. Now, obviously, yes, if somebody notices that you have been sitting back for more than 4 turns and you only have like 1 creature out there and it's a 1/1 Elvish Mystic, then hey buddy, you probably are going to get caught out, and you might get knocked out for it. It just depends on the table. And that's exactly where this kind of leads to, is the different play styles of everybody is going to be different. You're more aggressive. I'm probably more laid back and trying to set up. I'm the mid-range, you're the aggression. And it's interesting because like you'll have those 2 dynamics, and then you'll have like a new player dynamic to come to the table, or you'll have another aggressive player come to the table, and you'll have the nice 2 rams hitting each other, and it's getting nowhere.
Personally, I love when I get another aggressive player at the table, because they're the player that I trust the most at the table, which I know sounds weird, but it's because that's exactly how I play.
Right.
The aggressive player is not going to go after the other aggressive player. Like, that just is dumb. You're going to end up tiring each other out and losing to the table.
Yep.
I feel like if you're sitting down with a combat deck and you're playing against combo decks and you have one other combat deck, most of the time there's kind of this unspoken thing that's like, we need to go after them first and we'll duke it out later.
Yep.
Because if you try to duke it out then, you're just going to die.
Yes,
it's just
because you'll let the
nature of aggression in Commander, you have to do it and do it quickly.
Yep.
And I've always felt when I'm at those tables where I have another combat deck and I have 2 combo decks, it's a lot easier to take those 2 combo decks out first and then deal with whatever is on the board at that point than it is to start butting heads with another combat player, and then we're just going to lose at the game because the other 2 players are going to have free time to do what they want.
And that's the thing too, as more of a combo person, I would say, I guess, like if I notice those things like at a table, like I know that I'm going to be on my heels probably the entire time. If there's more aggression on the table than there is combo, and I'm the combo, then yeah, I'm going to be the one that's going to be probably getting hurt early. Because if I get any time to set up or anything like that, let's take last Monday night. What were you playing against one of the Torbrand games where you took Torbrand out like twice, like immediately? I don't remember what deck you were playing exactly. It wasn't fully aggressive, I know that, but it was still aggressive enough.
Was it Mutate?
It was, actually. It was the Mutate, yes. Which was hilarious in of itself, different conversation. But it's that thing of, like, you saw Torbrand came out, you took a chance to get him off the board, he did. Then he came back out, and you took another chance to get him off the board.
Yeah, Mutate's kind of a bad... talking about aggression, it's not.
No, it's not.
That deck is more combo than it is mid-range, but it's a very interesting mix of those 2.
But you were still aggressive in that kind of play. Yeah. And I mean, that's just who you are.
Well, my problem with that deck of yours is I know that Torbrand is your linchpin. Like, it is the linchpin of your strategy.
Which is sticky, but...
So my thought process was I'd rather deal with whatever you have in your hand as far as damage spells without that buff rather than with it.
Yep.
Because sure, you could dump some big X spell out and still do some good damage. And I accepted that. But my point was I would much rather make you work for it.
Yep.
Because you could have. I mean, if you had a Blasphemous Act or something like that, you're still wiping the entire board.
Yep.
It's not like I can stop that,
Right.
But my point was, this comes down to threat assessment. You have an let's say you have an electric static field and Torbrand. I'm a lot more worried about Torbrand than I am the field.
Yes.
Because sure, the field's a problem, but it's not the main problem.
No.
The field just additively adds on. Torbrand multiplies so much, and it's just like, ooh, I have to.
So that's the thing. Like in that game, I knew losing him the second time, I knew I wasn't going to get him back out, and I knew that there was probably a lot higher chance of me losing. Well, you also had a huge mutated thing that no one dealt with, and I couldn't because that's not what my deck does. But anyways, beside the point, like there was a lot of things happening on the table, but I could see that what was happening on the table, I wasn't going to win. Now, that didn't mean that I wasn't going to stop playing and still do what I wanted to do, because I still did. I still played my spells, I still did my damage, and I wanted to do
a lot of damage.
Exactly. That deck always does damage, which is what I want to do. And I was thinking about this morning as well. I really, really don't mind losing a game at all if I am doing what my deck was built to do.
It always feels bad when you lose a game and you never felt like you had a chance to play. No, for sure. I think those are the games that are kind of the hardest to swallow.
Mm-hmm.
When you feel like you literally never even had a chance to do anything, and you're just like, yep, that makes sense. The games where you never got set up, you never got the cards you need, and then your opponent pulls out some combo, and you're like, yep, there we go, there's the game. Like, yeah, that that's the way the game works. But I think it'd be easy to say, well, the problem is I didn't draw what I needed to. That's why I lost.
Oh, that's very easy to say. Okay.
Yes and no. Like, yes, you didn't draw what you needed, but you didn't even try to put something together with what you had, because you might have been able to.
Mm-hmm.
There's been plenty of games where I've took a bad hand, or I thought my hand was good and then I drew bad. But I've realized that if you can... You never want to wait around. You never in a game want to be waiting for something. It's a bad idea, because you're just going to get killed in the process.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can... What I found sometimes is if you can make it look like you're still doing something, even if you're really not, some players, if they don't know your deck strategy, they don't know your deck type, might think that that's still good. There's been times where all I could do is make a few tokens, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to do that. Because at least it looks like I'm doing something. If they really thought that I had nothing and I was doing nothing, they would attack me. But now I have a couple tokens out. Maybe that attack doesn't look as good. Now I can survive my way around the table. So when board wipes, it is what it is. But at least I look a little bit more scary than I would have been had I just passed Goad with 8 mana open.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm not saying that's the way you should always play the game.
Yeah.
I'm just saying if you're at an arms race of a table, sometimes you have to look the part to not get squashed.
Little fake it till you make it kind of thing.
That
is more or less your it's going to sound wrong, but I hope you know what I'm saying here. It's kind of like your stall strategy of like, this is what I kind of have to do until maybe I draw what I need, or maybe something happens from another player that makes the game state completely flop on its
Or
head.
like, let's say the turn later, I draw a card that helps with what I played already.
Yeah.
Bang. But my problem is if you find yourself doing nothing and you're not putting anything down in the board state, we've talked in the past about how in our play group we give a 4 or 5 turn buffer before we start swinging at people that don't have anything out in front of them.
Yes.
Because we know how it feels. But eventually, you're going to start getting hit. It's just the truth. I mean, the game ends.
You still have 40 health. I'm sorry. That's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, the game has to end. And for an aggressive deck, they want to go after the people who aren't doing well.
Right.
Because they're the easiest players to take out. Now, I'm the kind of aggressive player who is always going to say, I want to take out my biggest opponent first. Because then it's going to be a whole lot easier.
Yep.
I mean, with Winota or Goreclaw, that's definitely my strategy, is take out my biggest threat first. Yep. And then even if those other 2 players have some removal, I'll value it out. I'll figure it out, from there. But I think it's easy to see that you're losing and just give up.
Yeah.
And just say, well, all right, just kill me, whatever, But I think if you can... Those are the kind of games where I go, okay, what would have fixed my situation? Like... what could I have seen that might have changed my game plan, or like what was in my hand, like what did I miss? That's the easiest thing sometimes for me, is you lose a game or somebody responds really well to something and you're like, why did that? And then you look in your hand and realize you should have played your cards differently, or you missed some interaction, or
I've done that.
You should have left some mana up to get rid of something and you would have been okay to still play it. I think we as players sometimes have this mindset where if I don't use all my mana on my turn, I'm not doing well. And it's like, well, sometimes leaving that mana up for somebody else's turn and faking some interaction.
Yes.
Or
especially if you're playing blue or white. Or
like the first example that came to my head was we were playing with our friend Brian the other night, and he was using Grossbow. I said, Brian, did you need that land this turn? And he said, no. I was like, why not do it on an opponent's turn? 2 mana and one of them being blue could potentially scare some people from trying to do things.
It always will.
I mean, there are some very great counterspells for 2 mana, So
counterspell?
Yeah, so I mean, you might be able to bait someone into saying, man, he's got 2 mana up. What is he doing? Mm-hmm. And then in what I like to do, if you've ever noticed with instant speed tutors or that kind of thing, is wait as long as I can.
Yes.
Fake the mana being up.
Yep.
And then when I realize that, okay, the last player, let's say there's one player before me and they're kind of behind. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it on this player's end step then, so I have a little bit more time to look through my library and I can, make a decision. But you don't know. I could have Heroic Intervention. I could have Protection. You have no idea what I have in my hand. And I want to bait that.
Yes.
Because then if you kill it, well, then I can just do what I wanted to do in response anyway, and it is what it is. But at least I'm discouraging something that they don't know. For example, in the Mutate game, I mutated on a creature that could regenerate itself. And I purposely left 2 mana up the entire game because I said if I have to block with it, or if you try to kill it with damage, I'm just going to regenerate it.
Yep.
And save it. And that's my giant pile. So it was like that 2 mana is worth leaving up, even if my turn doesn't look very good, because I need that to protect what I have. But you don't know necessarily, even if you saw the ability, you're like, that's what he has the 2 mana for. You don't necessarily know that.
Right.
I mean, I could have a removal spell in my hand. I could have a counter spell. I could have protection. I mean, you have no idea.
Yep.
And so that's why I always try to leave mana up. Even if I don't have anything, I always try not to lead on that I didn't have anything, because I still think 3 or 4 mana sitting at the end in somebody's turn is still something where you go, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Why didn't they use anything? And then you kind of keep that in the back of your head. Now, if they're not in blue, then it's not necessarily a counterspell.
But
still could be removal.
As we say, you don't discount it. Yeah.
The things that always get me are there's a really popular card during Ixalan Standard called Settle the Wreckage. The way the card works is when your opponent attacks you with any amount of creatures, you exile all of them, and they get basic lands for each creature they attacked you with. That's 4 mana. Now, 4 mana in white might look a little weird because you're like, you could have just board wiped. Like, why did they leave the mana up? But you would never see that coming. Right. I think those type of cards no one ever expects in Commander.
Yeah, those are beautiful.
Because we kind of expect the big flashy removal spells. We don't really expect,
value coming out of getting
or
removed.
a deflecting palm or an ink shield. Like that's the kind of stuff that we don't expect because you're like, well, he probably had nothing, so I'm going to swing at him. And then, ink shield, I'm going to get 15 inklings, and you're like, what? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
it's like, thanks for doing nothing. Yeah.
So I say that to say that sometimes you're not necessarily bluffing, but you're also not giving your opponents any information, and sometimes that can be helpful.
Yeah, not only that. Like,
also, having a decent poker face is also good.
True.
If you're going to tell the table, my hand sucks, you're giving the table all the information they need.
Yeah.
I like to, me, I like to joke, oh, this hand's crap, or like, oh man, I've seen better hands than this. And most of the time I just say that as a joke. I mean, I'm not actually going to tell you whether my hand is bad or not.
I think we've come to the standard of just saying, well, that's a legal Magic hand.
Yeah. And so,
every single time.
So my joke is just so that I'm not leading you on and like, man, this is a god hand, I'm going to win this game, or man, this hand is crap. But I do that because then you have no idea.
Right.
Do I actually mean that? Am I just joking around? Like we don't, of course, in Magic, we don't get the privilege to see each other's hands, so you have no idea what's in my, and of course, unless you're playing Thoughtseize, like a modern player.
Yay, Thoughtseize.
But I think for me, the most important part about losing is how you react to it and what you get from it. So how do you react to it? That for me is, do not bad manner the table. Like, if you lost, you lost.
Yeah.
It's not somebody's fault. You were supposed to remove that and you didn't. Why didn't you guys have any removal? I hear that so much in Commander. Like, why didn't you guys have anything for that? Like, what's going on? And it's like, you didn't have anything either.
Yeah.
Like,
I will try my best to say, man, it sucked. No one had removal for that. Like, I have to conclude.
I also feel like sometimes people don't point anything out. Like, I think newer players especially don't know what to take off the board, and then when no one says, hey, that creature would be a good thing to take off the board, and then they just let it go, and then at the end of the game you're like, why didn't you remove that? And they're just like, I don't know, it didn't even really look that bad,
Right.
But I think you should lose respectfully, you should win respectfully.
Yeah.
This isn't a nana boo boo, I won type thing, because that's the quickest way to not get another game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. It's a quick way to get goodbye.
But I think that taking a quick note in your head of how the game went, what you thought was good, what you thought was bad. When I'm testing a deck, I do this, but I write down what I saw. Like, okay, I saw my combo enablers, I saw my life gain engine, I saw my this, I saw that. Lands seemed okay. Okay. And the next game I go, didn't see the combo enablers this time. Lands were good, got some decent card draw. Do I need more combo enablers? You know, and as you go through these games, whether you're winning or losing, you're kind of keeping in your head, are my ratios good? Am I seeing the things I need? And I think it kind of will still benefit you even though you lost.
Yeah. I know, like, you also, like, with going back to your mana point, like, your mana and your resources looking at, like, through your deck and everything after a loss, I think is something that a lot of people don't, like, mana managing, I guess is what I'm trying to say, is pretty important. And it's something I've had to kind of evaluate and whatnot. Not necessarily like, oh, I need to add more lands or something like that. Like, it's literally sitting there thinking, should I have left the mana open? Should I have used it, kind of thing. I remember when I was playing Yuriko a couple of weeks ago, whatever, there was a point where I swung in with an unblockable creature, then bounced in a ninja with the ninjutsu ability, and then I brought the unblockable creature back to my hand, but I still had mana open to play that unblockable creature again, so I can swing with it next turn.
Yep.
And instead, I was 2 turns behind now because I waited until my next turn to play it. I didn't have anything in my hand to play, and I didn't need to leave the mana open because I had plenty of it. That is something I think that a lot of times for me, I don't do, and I'm going to be doing more now, because it's like, okay, well, now I need to start realizing that I can, not necessarily that I can play things on my second main, because yes, we all know that, but it's being more strategic with it and whatnot. And it's also trying to be like, okay, I need to figure out how to stay at the same pace with the rest of the game, kind of thing. Because it goes back to your point of, like, if you're waiting too long and you're sitting too far back, kind of thing, then you're going to miss the pace. Or if your opening hand just isn't it, then yes, you're going to miss the pace, but you can catch up. Board wipes help with that. Stupid Cyclonic Rifts help with that and stuff like that. So, I mean, things can flip the board state, or the game state, really on its head. And I mean, there's just so many cards out there that can, like, it's just how it is and how we work and how the game works. And it's great because it's great because those moments make you feel, you know, if you're in the loser seat and you feel like you're about to just be done for, you're like, I don't really know what to do. I love when those cards do come out because it makes everybody kind of take a deep breath now. It makes the person winning go, what the...
What happened? Yeah.
What happened? Anyways, but all that to say, back to the mana management, just when you lose, really, really kind of take a sec to look at your look at your mana and go, wow, okay, I did use this Corn from Heaven in the right sense. Or no, I didn't, because I should have actually been playing it more to this way, or I should have been leaving more up.
I think the question you ask yourself is, it's turn 4, you have 4 mana. What's the best way to use that 4 mana?
That's a good question.
Not what can I play, what's the best? And this is what I have done to challenge myself as of late is, okay, yes, I could slam this 4 CMC creature down, not attack with this turn, pass, and hope I untap with it. Or is 2 mana spells better? You got to think about it, because it's easy to just say, ooh, I finally got to my big splashy spell, but I can't do anything else with it. You got to you got to look at your mana and say, how do I use this? So in your Yuriko example, right, you paid the mana for the ninjutsu, you had mana left, and in your main 2, you probably said, well, I don't have enough mana for this, or I'm not really here for this yet, so, okay, that's it, I'm probably done. But you didn't realize I had a couple 1-drops I could have slammed down and used them next turn. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where it's like, I know we joke about this, like, well, you should play your spells in main 2, but it's the truth. Like, you should really be... If you are not going to do anything before you attack, you should attack first. Because A, you bait that you could have something, and B, it looks weird that you just immediately go into combat. You might look reckless to other players. You might look like you don't have anything, and so all you're going to do is attack. You know what I mean? It can give your opponents a different opinion of what you're doing. But the reason that it's good is because then, let's say you had a pump or you had a protection spell in your hand, but you also had a big spell you wanted to play. Well, you go to attack. maybe that protection spell is more important in the moment than that other spell was, and you didn't realize it until you made your attack, and you actually got good damage through because of it.
That's good. I mean, I like the 4 mana. I like the 4 mana thing because, like, I was looking up like how many 4 mana commanders there are, and there's legally as of right now 305, and I would say a lot of them are really good. Like, well, I'm actually probably one of the worst at this. Like, I play Torbrand, I play Kadena, I will be playing Kaikar soon. Those are all 4 mana commanders, and honestly, like, you can sit there and go, I have 4 mana, time to get my commander out. But what are you going to do with it? Like, right then and there, what are you going to do with it? Like, I have to, I feel like, with Torbrand, because I have to be on the gas the entire time. And
he's actually a great blocker, too.
He is.
I mean, because of that. But I think that's what I learned a lot with Goreclaw was it's a lightning rod. And as soon as you put that lightning rod down on the battlefield, it's going to get hit.
Yeah, I mean,
so I generally tend to, this is what Arena taught me in Historic Brawl, as much as I love and hate Historic Brawl. It taught me that you don't run an important piece out unless you can protect it.
Yep.
Just because you can play something doesn't mean that you should. Because, yes, 4 mana for Torbrand, great. But with that 4 mana, could you have put a Gutter Snipe down and left a Shock open? Could you have, you know what I mean? Like, think about all the other combinations of 4 mana that you might have in your hand. You know, could you have hit a draw spell? Could you have Tormenting Voiced and saw what else you got and gone for, you know what I mean? Like, it's easy just to say, okay, I have my commander, I need to play my commander. But, you know, if you've seen a lot of removal that game and you get to turn 4 and you know people have removal, I'm not running my commander out there just to get killed, because now they're 6 and now I have to figure out how to.
We play in such a crazy format where removal is only 3 mana,
2 mana, 1 mana.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. And I mean, looking at EDH Rec, the top 20, which has changed a lot over the past week. I have not looked at it in a week, clearly. It's funny.
Oh, this will be good.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. Anyways, I didn't know Prosper was this high right now. But anyways, the top 20, there are over 10 of those commanders that are 4 mana, straight up. And, like, they're all good, but I mean, I don't know which one I would be okay with playing right at turn 4. Other than maybe Lathril, because I want to attack with her as fast as possible. And if she
I think the problem is that every one of these commanders depends on their strategy. There's definitely some of these I'd run straight out and not care.
Is one of them, yeah.
Because they're hopefully going to, and this comes down to, is your commander the first thing you're playing, or are you setting up before your commander? Because if you're setting up before your commander, you necessarily don't mind, because I don't know. Let's say I had I set up some ramp, and I put I don't know. Let's pick the easy, low-hanging fruit. Let's say I'm playing Omnath Landfall.
Yep.
Okay.
That's go.
Let's say turn 2 I ramped hard, and then turn 3 I put down a Landfall enchantment. Okay. So turn 4 or turn whatever, I untap, play my land for turn, get a token, and then I try to dump Omnath onto the battlefield. Well, if Omnath gets killed, I still have an enchantment for my strategy ready to go.
Yeah.
Omnath was not the first spell that I casted that game. I think the problem is when your commander at 4 mana is the first spell you're casting that game. That's a problem. Like, that's not your commander being 4 mana problem. That's your deck not being fast enough problem.
Yeah.
Now, of course, there's some commanders on this list where you don't even need them on the battlefield to do what they need to do. But, I mean, I think the problem is that you should have... I don't think that you should always have something to do turn 1, because I don't think that's fair.
No, it's not.
But if your deck does not have a turn 2 play consistently, your problem is not your commander. Your problem is your deck.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Bye Torbrand. That's why.
And if you're not in green, if you're in green, that turn 2 play should be ramp. And if you're not in green, it should be an artifact. And if it's not that, then you need to rethink the way your deck is structured.
There's so many different things you can say here. Draw. There needs to be a draw spell.
Yeah.
There needs to be a ramp spell. There needs to be an artifact.
I mean, to me, draw on non-green colors is ramp. Like, if you think about it.
Sure.
You're getting access to more cards. And remember, in most non-green decks, you're not just ramping for lands. You're ramping for artifacts, too, which are almost just as good as lands.
If not better,
yes. So, yeah, but I think if you're not seeing those turn 2... then we have another problem besides what your commander costs.
And these are the things that you should be analyzing, or you could be analyzing. I can't say you should. I'm not going to make anybody do anything. Who am I? John Valjean. But I think this is something that you could be analyzing after a loss and sitting there going, okay, I may have done better, or this game would have done better if, my turn 1 was this, or my turn 2 was this, or my turn 3 was this, and then my turn 4 was this. I think the turn 4 exercise is probably just really, really good to have in general in the back of your mind right before turn 4. Like, as everybody else is I kind of like being the last player sometimes. Because as everybody else is taking their 4th turn, you're sitting there going, okay, this is where I'm going to go with this. And it's going to be like, I'm going to drop this land, I'm going to bring in this creature, and then I'm going to throw this enchantment on top of it, or this aura on top of it, because that's what I'm trying to do. And that's the functionality of my deck. And the next time I come out, now I have even more possibilities to make my Shishiro deck work faster, or who cares?
My favorite thought experiment at a commander table, and this is how I play the game. I take my turn. I immediately start saying, what am I going to do next turn? Regardless of what I draw, what's my plan right now?
Right.
And then as we go around the table, people start taking turns. Maybe someone puts out a good piece. I'm like, okay, I need to remove that. I have this removal spell. That's my play. And then we continue around the table, and maybe it changes again. Maybe someone else plays something else, and I'm like, okay, maybe I need to attack them, or maybe I need to get rid of that piece.
Yep.
And then the final... So right now I already have 1 or 2 paths where I'm going to take my turn. And then the last thing that's going to decide it for me is what I draw. If what I draw trumps everything else that I thought before, then I do it. If not,
Agreed.
I know exactly what I'm about to do. And I think it helps you because you stay in the game.
Mm-hmm.
You stay present and you understand. It's easy to just say, I got to get rid of that because I have to stay alive. It's not necessarily about just staying alive. It's about staying in a good position. You don't want to go all too far out to stay alive and then lose because you went too far out and you can't
come back.
Can't come back. You need to kind of be... Sometimes you got to let the table go a little bit to make sure you're still in the place you need to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you, most combo decks are willing to let the table go so they can get their pieces in place, because once they're done, oh man.
Oh, it doesn't matter what's on the board,
I've seen sacrifice decks where they've got 20 tokens and a way to get rid of them at instant speed, and now they have a nuke button that they have their finger on going, okay, yeah, you can try to wipe the board, good luck. And I'm just going to press this button now.
Exactly, I saw that actually not too long ago. I was playing against a Witherbloom deck, and the guy had only 4 tokens out or whatever, and I was like, well, I can play this spell that does 4 damage to face and then 1 damage to all your tokens, which with Torbran out, yay, do stuff. But it really didn't matter because he did that exact thing of I'm going to wipe myself and get more value out of it than you wiping me. I was just like, God, I hate that. But it's great. It's great.
But I think that's what makes those decks really strong. Yes. As opposed to being a brute force, they're very much a threat of an attack, which is a very risky. I mean, it's a very good strategy, but it can be risky too, because the stack is an elegant thing that you could play with. But to me, I think you learn as a player when you lose. Mm-hmm. When you try new things and you lose, or you make mistakes and you realize you made those mistakes, and you can move on from there. And I think if we as players aren't thinking that way, we might still have fun, but we'll never learn.
Yep. And that is definitely something I have tried, I think, over the past 6 months since I've started playing again with you and whatnot. At first I was doing this and I was like, yeah, I can play this and have fun. I might build a deck and then, kind of chill out and kind of thing. Obviously that didn't happen.
Nope.
Here we are. Yay. No. But I seriously do enjoy being hyper competitive sometimes, because I get to sit down and have these moments. I was playing... Oh dear God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, community who listens to me. I was playing League of Legends yesterday, and now granted, and stops recording. Get that garbage out of here. But we were sitting there. I was playing with, I already mentioned him, our friend Braden. We play the Wild Rift version on our phones.
Which is the mobile version of the game. Mobile version. It's different, but it's similar, yeah.
It's very similar. I mean, it's still League. It's
not like Arena where it's Magic, but it's just Magic on the phone. It's the same game. It's just formatted differently to be mobile.
Yeah, it's simpler. It's nice. I like it. I used to play regular League back in the day too, but besides the point, I was playing it and we were doing good. We unfortunately though got into this rhythm of we would win one, lose one, win one, lose one, win one, lose one, and we were playing ranked, so we're trying to gradually go, but you don't in that game if you lose at all.
Hey, you get so much progress if you win, and you lose so much progress if you lose. So if you're winning and losing an equal amount, you're never actually moving.
No, you might literally stay stagnant.
You might, in some different levels of those competitive tiers, you might gain 2 when you win and lose 1 when you lose. So some of them you might move slightly.
Yes.
But the problem is, for most of those games where you're ranked, you get to a certain point in a tier and you have to win so many games in a row to go to the next tier. Or you have to, so it's not just about winning every time. It's about putting yourself in the right positions in the game and then hopefully winning,
So there was one game that we lost pretty hard, and it wasn't like anything. I mean, granted, yes, we can blame it on teammates all the time. That's what always happens in that kind of game, because it is unfortunately not a game that you can, unless you are a faker. If you know who that is, great. If you don't worry about it. You can't just straight up carry the entire team every single game. Now, there are games where you can, it's great.
I would argue you can some games, but even Faker doesn't carry his team every game.
No.
He has players who understand how to play the game around him.
And that's the thing. Like, we lost. We took the huge L, and I was fed up with it. But instead of just straight up blaming team and going,
deleting the app, throwing your phone across
deleting the app, throw phone, add another crack to the screen. Not from the game, I promise. Anyways, we went over to someone else's house. We were playing bocce ball and talking while playing and whatnot. And I promise this is going somewhere. And I stopped and he went,
wait, this podcast doesn't appreciate bocce ball as a game?
Oh my God, I love bocce ball. We should play sometime. Anyways, I'd rather play cornhole. No. And I sat there and I was like, hey, like, what do you think we should do next time that this happens or X happens or whatever? And he looked at me and he was like, dude, it's just a phone game. And I'm like, yeah, but like it's fun to analyze a loss and go, I need to do this better. I need to actually jump in on this fight. Like, kind of the same thing with Magic. I need to jump in on this person because they're getting too aggressive, or maybe not aggressive, but they have like a huge creature, and it's going to be huge eventually, and I should just delete it from the board now. Or that person has a lot of cards in their hand. Maybe I should play something that's going to change that a little bit. Like, I think it's really, really great when you can kind of look at a game and go, okay, this is how it should change.
Yep.
This is how I should change for the game and whatnot, and this is how my playstyle can change for the game. Now, all that being said, yes, I understand that every game is going to be different every single time.
And I think you can even put yourself in the right position and you might still lose. That's just the nature of the game. But I've always believed if you're doing things the right way consistently,
yes, there it is.
You will get there.
Yep.
It's just, I think League's a little harder of a game because there's so much variance.
Oh, for sure.
In the game of Commander, you're relying on yourself.
Yes.
Yes, you only have 3 opponents. You have 3 opponents, but you're relying on yourself.
Yes.
You know what you are going to do. The problem with any game online where you're playing with other people is, at the end of the day, you are reliant on the people you play with. That's just the truth.
Yes, for sure. I agree.
But I think the thing I like about Commander is if I lose, it's on me.
Yep.
Most of the time. I mean, yes, there's that one, oh, come on, man, he drew that, and that's not, sure, okay. There are games where you really have a shot to win and someone beats you to it. And you're like, oh, well, he drew
Crap.
that, man, that sucks. All right, cool, next game, But my viewpoint has been is if you are getting your right approach every time, you will start to win more often than not.
Yes.
And you'll put yourself in the right scenarios. But you can't view it personally. You have to view it objectively, and you have to just keep moving.
Yes.
I think it's easy to get really frustrated and be like, well, I did this right, and so, and he always wins. He always plays that deck. I promise you it's not that deck. I promise you it's something that you're not seeing.
Yeah, exactly.
With very few examples, it's not that deck. Like, there are certain decks that are just very tough to beat in general.
For sure.
That's just the way that card games work. But I'll tell you that if you have the right approach, I've been able to go against some decks I should not have beat and held up and almost won. So it's just all about your approach. If you know, let's say it's kind of a joke at this point. The whole group views my Gorkla deck as like this boogeyman that like no one can figure out. I've told you on multiple occasions, it's not that hard of a deck to beat. It's just aggressive. If you can outlast the aggression, you'll beat me quickly, actually.
And we actually talked about this morning with somebody. Like, you can gain a few life. That's outlasting it a little bit. I mean, you got to gain a little bit more than just.
But what I've said is like the deck. I would argue the deck's not necessarily good. The deck in my hands is good
because you've played it.
It's so how I play the deck that makes the deck good. It's not that the deck is good. It's that it's okay, but it's how aggressive I am and my recklessness with it that tends to help me win.
Yeah.
But you have to accept that as well. That has to be something you think about. Like let me give you a perfect example. There's a guy that we've played at the shop multiple times who plays a Kinnan list. Kinnan, as a commander, is known for making a lot of mana, and people do gross things with that mana. So anytime I see a Kinnan deck, my thought is, what are you going to do with it? Not what you set up, because I know how to build a deck that sets mana up. It's what are you going to do with it? So in the back of my head, I'm like, I have to race you getting that mana, because once you get that mana, the game's over. There's a long laundry list of ways that you could do it.
Right.
But I've won games against Kinnan because you have to get there first. And once you get there, you're going to beat him. I mean, at the end of the day, it relies on permanence to make mana.
Yep.
You know, if you could stop that, or if you can lock it down, or if you can, you know, especially its ability, if you can not let it use its ability, there's only so much they can do, you know. But that's the case for a lot of commanders, is if you can either beat them to the punch or you can contain what they're trying to do. I mean, I've beaten Urza decks that way. I've beaten Korvold and Golos. These are commanders that are great once they get going, but they need time to get going. And if you can step in and cut them off before they get going, doesn't matter how many thousands of dollars they have in their deck, you're not going to be able to do it.
Right.
So to me, it's not always about, well, he's playing that deck again, here's another loss. Like, if you tell yourself that, it's going to happen.
Yeah, you're going to lose, yeah.
But if you have the confidence and you try, more often than not, you will put up a good fight in a game. And you might actually steal a win away from a deck you don't think you should. Because you never know. It was funny. We went to I went to the shop up with Roy, you know, our buddy who we had on last week. And it was funny because we left and he goes, man, I stuck pretty well into those games. And I was like, yeah, Roy, because you didn't have any fear. You were like, I'm going to play my game plan. And I joked, I said, and then when you weren't sure to do, you just hit me. And you were like, yeah, I'm gonna hit my buddy who always wins. I'm gonna stick it to him, you know? And I was just like, you weren't like me sitting over here looking at the other two players' boards going, oh crap, that's a combo waiting to happen. I need to deal with that. He didn't even realize that was going on.
No, yeah,
he was
I love
just
that.
having fun. And I was like, and he got pretty good in most of the games. And he was in the mix because he wasn't overanalyzing. He wasn't. I'm like, but that works.
Yeah,
that works. If you're, but when you just go into a game and you're like, oh, I lost. Here we go. Here's another game, and then you're never gonna actually get there.
I love that. I do, because like I was about to say, like you kind of hit the nail on the head already. Like saying that when we play Commander, it is on you. It is what you do. I think you will find yourself liking the game more, enjoying it to a higher level. And I know that's basically the same thing I just said. But you also find yourself getting better, and I think maybe even winning more if you really do stick to what can I do, because I can't control what they do. What can I do, and what is my strategy that I've made for this deck? If you can stick on that one line, now yes, there's going to be times where you're going to have to vary off because of the board state and what's happening. But I've played Torbran enough times to realize that I'm going to have to do one thing and one thing only, like get something that's going to help burn more things, and then get Torbran out, and then start burning.
And then burn, yeah.
Yes.
And if you can't get Torbran out, still burn.
It's still burn, yes. Yeah. Like, that is my strategy. And it doesn't matter how much health I have to start getting everybody else down, because, like, it's unfortunate, but I'm going to be a threat.
I think it's easy to, like, I think one of the things I see Magic players doing the most is blaming a loss on what someone else did. Oh, yeah. Well, they played that spell, and they picked the wrong target.
I do that.
They picked the wrong target. They should have picked this. And if they picked this,
then
it would have been better. And I could have, the table would have been better for it. They picked the wrong, and I do that too sometimes. But I think the approach should be, okay, that doesn't make sense. But maybe that helps the strategy. I need to watch what they're doing now. You know what I mean? Or like, that's inconvenient for me. Maybe I don't go all out here and I wait to see what is coming down. You have to position yourself to the table. Yep. There's definitely been times where when we've been playing with our friends who are newer players, I'm like, well, this is what I would do in an experience table, not the same thing I'd do at a table with new players, because they don't see the game the same way.
Right.
There's definitely been times where they'll pull stuff out and I'm like, what? Like, what? Wait, what? Like,
yeah.
And I'm just like, okay, well, that changes my turn, or like, oh, wow, okay, or they'll make a decision and I'm like, okay, don't know if that was the right decision, but
beat you again.
but then afterwards I'm like, hey, you really probably should have gone after this, and they're like, oh,
that makes sense.
That makes more sense now.
Yeah.
That's just part of the game.
Yeah.
I think truly, if Commander was a game that
truly in the fridge,
we sat down and we knew how a game would end just at looking at the commanders, no one would play the game.
Yeah.
Like it's like it's not where you end up. I don't want to be that cliche guy who's like, it's not where you end up, man, it's the ride, but like it's the truth. Like the game is the game for what happens in the middle of the game.
Yes.
And that big splashy play that you win on, or like that awesome draw that changes your play and makes you do this instead, and you get that glorious win. Like,
yes.
Those are the things that make Commander what it is. But you notice that, like, the games where you and your buddies are just hanging out and you don't really care who wins, you're just having a good time, is still fun too.
Yes, for sure.
It's not just about the optimal play and the right play line and the right cards and, oh, well, this card's better in slot, so I have to play this, It's about what you enjoy from the game.
We talked about this before because we listen to other podcasts as well. Shout out to all the other podcasts. I'm not going to list them. But, this is a casual format technically. Like, to my knowledge, there is not an official Wizards of the Coast Commander tournament or league that goes around the country and so on and so on.
No, although we actually just got announced last week that Command Fests are coming back, which are...
I don't know what that is, but I quit. No.
Which are basically... It's not a tournament. Think about it like, basically just a space for you to go play Commander with people. Well, they might have... They might have drafts, or they might have other things going on, but it's not like you have 7 matches today, you have to go play them. It's more of just to go with your friends, hang out with other people. Like the Command Fest they've done in the past, artists were there, and they had
so
vendors
you want to go,
there.
is what you're telling me.
Oh, of course. If there's one in Dallas or anywhere close, I want to go.
Let's go.
I like it because it's not a try-hard modern tournament. It's just people playing Commander.
I love that.
And I think that's cool that they're not trying to get a Commander league where like you go and you play your deck and you get points. As much as that's fun, it's not the most welcoming thing in the world.
It isn't. I think that's where you can start losing your vision of what the game is trying to become. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know what Commander was made for. I think it was made for a casual player kind of play style. I really do. When you put 100 cards into a deck, like, you're just asking for a bunch of crazy stuff to happen, which it does.
I think the problem is people hear the word casual and they think that means that you can't try to win.
Oh no, please try to win.
And I think that's the problem, is sometimes we view our format as this. Casual means I'm just trying to have fun. Casual means I can't play any good cards. I can't play. Yeah. I can't try to win. Because I think that's a misconstrue of what the format actually is. I think the focus is to have fun before winning.
Yes.
Right? But that doesn't mean that you can't want to win. But I think you have to remember that there's 3 other people at the table, and we should want to try to make sure everyone enjoyed the game.
Yes. It does not mean please do not go tutor for Cyclonic Rift every single time that you play this game.
It's not power hard the game every time, win on turn 4, and then be happy because you won every game. Like, Who
cares?
I've always joked that, like, if you want to go to a shop, you can do that. But if you want to play with your friends...
Even then, I don't even know,
But what I mean is, like, if you're going to play with your friends, they're not going to want to play with you if that's the way you play.
That's a quick sift out.
I have been at plenty of shops where you could just tell someone's there to stomp as hard as they can, and it's fun to get one over on them.
They're going to play this because they're a Chad.
Yeah. Well, no, they're like, this is my $4,000 deck, and I play this every time I come, and look, it's all foil, and it's all the best cards ever. And you're like, that's cool, man.
I'm glad that you spent $10,000 on a Black Lotus. That's not
legal. What about us? Like, it was funny. I watched a video the other day, and I apologize. I think his name's Power Dragon on YouTube. He's like an arena guy.
Okay.
But he did some videos about, one about sleeves, one about the idea of proxies and what he feels about them. But one was about the Rule Zero conversation. This idea that we have in Commander where you're supposed to have a conversation before your game about what you expect, what you want to see, and that our hopes are that we all kind of pick our decks and cater our experience to what the group wants to see. And he said, more often than not, these Rule Zero conversations aren't, hey, like, what do you guys want? It's like, hey, this is what I'm playing. And that's okay, but eventually it's going to lead to some bad situations where someone's like, well, I don't really want to play against that. And then someone leaves the table and someone gets offended because someone didn't want to play. But it's like, you didn't ask them what they wanted. You told them what you were going to play.
That's a good point.
And there's a difference.
Like
saying, hey, guys, I just built this deck. I really want to try it out.
Yes.
That's different. I would be like, yeah, man, cool. I don't care what's in it. Let's give it a shot. I mean, I'll play any deck once. I could care less. But if you sit down with some turbo power deck with some commander, insert commander here that we all know is good most of the time, and you go, oh, I'm playing this deck, and I'm going to go, well, I'm pulling out the most aggressive thing that I have, and we're going to have a good time. because if that's what you're going to say, let's have some fun. But I think if we're doing our Rule Zero conversation right, and we're doing our play group right, if you're playing with your friends, if you care about those relationships and you have that dynamic right, you will avoid a lot of those issues.
Yep.
But I think if we're not, that's where you're going to run into problems.
And like we started talking about at the beginning of this, or not started talking about, but the biggest topic that we are casually talking about today is you'll be okay with losing in those scenarios. You will. I think there are, especially in our play group, I think we're all okay with losing. Like, it's okay. It's fine. We understand that there are multiple times that we get to play, which is great. We are blessed that you get to play, at least once a week, sometimes
a couple
more.
Games back to back.
Yes.
We're not just sitting down for one game. We sit down for 4 or 5.
Yes.
Everybody's switching decks out. It's not like we're only playing this and only playing that.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're not super competitive or anything like that. We don't have like a league or anything. We just have a bunch of fun, and it's great.
I'll correct you. We're not super competitive until I pull a deck out that everybody hates, and then we get super competitive.
Oh, you're playing Sithis? Oh, well, let me pull this
well, you
out.
are dead.
I'm targeting only you, and I'm saying it in the Rule Zero conversation.
It's like, should we just play Arch Enemy, or do we still want to
100%. No. Man.
But I hope you listen to our. I mean, I know this wasn't necessarily all about losing, but I think it was in a lot of ways. Like I said, this isn't just about losing. It's about our approach to the game and our approach to losing. And I think if you learn how to lose well and you learn how to learn from losing, I think you will be a better player overall.
Listen, let me give you something that's quote worthy. All right, Michael Thomas, 2022. All roads will lead to you losing. Done.
Fiend.
Hit the end button. No. I
mean, it's a good quote. I just think.
No, because not all roads.
It's just that you're wrong, and
yes.
you're smiling, knowing.
See, here we go. I'm lost.
Man, I think this is a good episode because every player can learn from this. It's not just new players. It's not just players who maybe are getting better at the game. Even the players who think they're good at the game need to be learning from their own losses.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, if we want to look at the greatest of all time, in any game, sport, whatever, I think the ones that really, really come out on top and the ones that we will talk about for generations are the ones that are I lost. Not only did I lost, I got my ass handed to me. And
go back next offseason, we're going to train back up. We're going to get back out there.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think also the thing with that is you have to do that every game. If you lose a game bad, you got to reset your brain.
Yep.
I've seen a lot of nights where someone loses a game early and they're deflated for the rest of the night. Yeah. And then they play a matchup where they actually have an upper hand and they just don't do well because they're deflated, they're angry, they have other stuff, and then they're just not sure how to, and you're just like, oh man, you had that, But I feel like we could go on for 3 hours.
We could. We should.
With different idioms and examples for this.
For sure.
I think we've thoroughly beat the dead horse as far as this goes.
You're going to lose. It's okay. We still love you. You may not love us because we beat you, but it's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
It's okay. It's okay, I make lamb. Yeah, no, that's no. But hey, if you don't expect to lose, you're gonna have a really bad time in Magic the Gathering. But that'll be my talking head piece at the end.
Well, guys, thank you so much for guys and girls, boys and girls,
and others,
and whatever else, fish of the sea,
and our robot overlords. Thank you for listening.
Oh, for sure, yes, Joe Biden, you a robot over. Oh wait, what? No political view here. Anyways, guys,
Hometown Commander is a podcast
that does not care about no, guys, we care about Magic the Gathering and the format that we all know and love and hate. So we hope you enjoyed listening to us ramble on about losing, because we are two guys who have probably lost more times than we can count, and we're okay with most of those losses.
I'm just kidding.
There are some that we're like, screw that.
No, for real. I mean, I think in any game you play, not just Magic the Gathering, if you play sports, if you play board games, if you no matter what you do, being okay with losing will make you a better player.
Oh, for sure.
And most of this episode probably won't apply to all the rest of those, but some of it will.
Wait, you can even go further. I'm going to go philosophical here because I can. It doesn't matter if
it cuts off. We're
done. This is twice now. He's cut me off. I've been fired twice. Jeez, come back from.
No, I think it'd be funny if you're like, all right, I'm going to get philosophical, and then the recording just cut.
This is where you're going to cut it. No, but I think you could even learn from. I feel like we should really start learning from mistakes more and more. And I don't necessarily mean mistakes. I think mistakes is such a sour word in our mouth. Our losses. We should learn from our losses. Like if you make a bad decision, just learn from it. It already happened. You can't change it. There's nothing you can do. It's unfortunate, but that's what it is. What it is, kind of thing. But it isn't what it is. It can be different next time that happens, or next time you are faced with something similar,
or you change your approach.
Exactly. Like it doesn't have to. This isn't just applicable to sports, like, or games, or something that's competitive or non-competitive, casual, or anything like that.
Work, relationships.
Let's talk about like
finances.
If you're an artist and you just drew something and it looks like the Secret Lair of Craterhoof Behemoth, which Millsy loves and I think is an atrocity.
That child.
Listen,
his or her best. I actually don't remember who we're doing.
I don't care. I think one of the other ones looks better. But anyways, I think the artist that did the rendition of that,
so good.
Oh, that's
so good, dude. But
anyways, it's still like you can learn from it and go, no. Next time I'm gonna do this differently. I'm gonna do this differently. And if you don't, then that's where you start just falling into the pit of taking your losses and you're gonna continue to take your losses. And this is why the Browns will never win a Super Bowl. No, I'm kidding.
And on that depressing note,
no, they won't win a Super Bowl because they're in Cleveland. But guys, gals, fish, dogs,
mer
cats,
people,
birds that live in space, and
any canon Magic the Gathering type people,
and Han Solo himself. We hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we have. I will see you next time. Not Millsy, just me.
Just him.